Last thing I want to hit you guys with. Okay.
The answer is the second best national player of the year.
That's what I was going to say. Is like, so I don't know how many people that are listening to this, people my age and people TO's age, will vividly remember the Adam Morrison versus JJ Redick Player of the Year race, because I think that was the best race that we've ever seen. That was when SportsCenter was in its heyday. You would turn on SportsCenter on February, and it would be like, all right, Adam Morrison went for 43 playing at San Francisco, and people were throwing batteries at him from the crowd at halftime. But then JJ Redick goes on the road to Maryland, and he puts up 29 and 5 assists, and Duke beats the Terps on the road. And that was an unbelievable Player of the Year race. And to me, this is the best that we've gotten since then, Fanta. You like one. Do you like, what were you like? You were probably like 10 or 11.
Yeah. I remember it. I mean, I remember I don't remember to the degree you guys do, but I remember how much fun that was.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the last 10 years, my favorite one was when Oklahoma and Kansas played a triple overtime game on a big Monday right after Christmas. Brent Musburger and Fran Fraschilla called. I believe Kansas won. They won. But Trae Young had a nuclear performance. And after the game, SportsCenter with Scott Van Pelt was like, and by the way, thanks to Scott for coming on our network last week. They were like, Trae Young's going to win National Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, the machine took off. He's getting branded every single week. Who won National Player of the Year at the end of the year?
That was Jalen Brunson.
It was Jalen Brunson.
Mm-hmm.
So it ended up being it was not Morrison and Redick, but it was a fun race to monitor. This is really cool. Now the machine's revving up. I think if I had to pick today, unfortunately for Janai, he was hurt for a little bit, and Cooper's just been unbelievable. I would take Cooper Flag.
Theo?
I would take Cooper right now as well. You take Janai off Auburn, they go 3-0. You take Cooper off Duke. I don't know. I think they're still really good. I just don't know.
That rhymed.
Huh?
You rhymed.
Not on purpose. Poet and didn't know it. I remember the JJ Redick, Adam Morrison National Player of the Year. They would double box the games during the middle of the game. Like JJ would be playing, and then they would double box and put Morrison up in the corner, and they would have stat counters for both guys. It was incredible. And this is before like you can picture in picture and do all these things. They did it for you. Like it was such a big deal that year. I just vividly remembering like every single game being an event. And then those guys just happened to play on the same night almost every single time. It was incredible. It was theater.
It was awesome. I did back when I was still writing, I did an oral history of those two kind of going head to head and what it was like. And I remember Adam Morrison told stories like everywhere they went on the road, it was a complete madhouse. Like you'd be going to places that would seat 4,000 people and there'd be 7,000 people in the building. Like it's like high school games, T.O., when people would just kind of be like flowing on the floor and there's people like just kind of standing around the sidelines and you never know if you're going to actually trip over someone's foot. It's kind of like Peach Jam these days. He said that's what it's like. There were people like sitting in the rafters at Santa Clara. He really did get batteries thrown at him when I think he was at Loyola. There were batteries that were thrown at him. He had one game where he scored 7 in the first half against somebody. And as he's walking off the court, some fan was like, Adam, you're overrated. And he kind of looked at him and was like, what's that new trend? I understand it now. And then came out and scored 35 in the second half and won by 20. He was insane. And then JJ Redick just got everywhere he went. It was, I think at the Maryland, they played at Maryland and there was the video of them saying F you JJ when he's on the free throw line. Like that exploded in a way that I did not ever see anything like that exploding before. Do you remember how there was a whole thing that was right when you could start playing video games online? And do you remember how there was a whole thing about how they play Xbox and Call of Duty against each other? Do you remember that storyline at all?
Yeah.
They did it once, and then that turned into a thing where it's like every night these guys are best friends, and it's like no, we talk to each other once at like an NBA Top 100 camp. What does Janai have to do Let's
do
fix
nothing. Like here's the thing: if they just both have to. It's like who's going to have a bad 2 games in a row first, because neither one of them have had 2 bad games in a row. Janai was just National Player of the Week, Naismith National Player of the Week this week. Like he's averaging 23, 14 and a half, 2.5 blocks and 2 assists. It's like, holy smokes. It's like, it's him and Cooper, and it's really your preference. Do you want this 5-man that controls the game, or do you want this super talented super wing who does everything? It's just a matter of preference.
Yeah. I don't know if there's anything that Janai Broome can do at this point where because he's with Cooper Flagg, it's the system is built around. This is the way that I would phrase it. The system is built around Cooper Flagg's talents at Duke, whereas at Auburn, it's not. I'm not saying Janai Broome is a product of that system, but it is the system that he fits in perfectly and can take advantage of. Does that make sense? Like Duke can't function without having Cooper Flagg there, where Auburn functions at like 80% capacity or 85% capacity.
It depends on the voters. Like,
yeah.
That's what it comes down. They've both been that good. By the way, speaking of votes, who the hell gets AP votes?
All right, that's for a different day.
Yeah, that's a different conversation for a different day.
I
reapplied. I was told, so I had an AP vote when I was at NBC, and I was told that I cannot have my AP vote since I'm only running field of 68 now, which that's what I was told.
They're ridiculous. There's people all over, because you got to be a newspaper in Des Moines or frickin' Arlington, Washington. I mean, my God, it's ridiculous that they make it like that. Local papers. You think that
I don't like ripping those guys because I think that they actually try. Like I think that those guys try, but it's a situation where but like they're focused on one team, on one league, on one beat, and it's not like they can go out and they can watch every single game. It's kind of like box score watching, and a lot of them, like when you're in the paper industry, you got to be on different beats. So you got guys that are supposed to be covering like beat writers for college football in the fall doing AP votes, where that they're just like they don't have the capacity to be locked in on it yet. So I feel for them, but I think something's got to change.
I know we got to run, but one thing maybe for next week. We're now at a point where we have to start having a discussion next week. Could Auburn be an all-time team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could we see back-to-back 37 in 3 years in college basketball?
Yes.
And what does it signify that it's coming from Connecticut and then from not a Duke, not a Kansas, not a Carolina, not a Kentucky, but a team named Auburn?
Hey, Duke could go 38-2 this year. Like,
sure could.
Yeah, Duke could go 38-2. Like I've said this before. I'm really, really hoping that we get a Duke Auburn rematch in the title.
Oh my!
I think that would be both of those teams at the peak of their powers, healthy. Janai Broome healthy, Cooper Flagg, everybody healthy. Like it's just those two storylines rising, and colliding in the national championship game in San Antonio. Sign me up for that, man. I'm all the way in on that. Listen, we got to jump. Fana's got to go hang out with Thad Mata. T.O. has to go and not invite me to any more broadcasts.
Charlotte again tonight.
Charlotte again. He's got to run up to the Hornets. So, you know what? I'm not going to make the joke. I'm just going to move right on past it.
Yeah,
so, listen, guys, it was always good to see you. Always a pleasure. We'll be back again next week, probably on Monday is my guess, if we can find a way to make that work, because I'll be in Lexington on Tuesday morning. So, for John Fanta, for Terrence Oglesby, my name is the uninvited Rob Doster.